Hello, I'm Jeremy Rivera, your unscripted SEO podcast host. I'm here with the incredible, the amazing Nick Eubanks. I've seen your stuff for like well over a decade and a half while I've been bouncing around in SEO. And I don't think we've ever been in the same room. We're not technically now, but as close as two
Yeah.
digital fellows can be. So I'm excited to sit down, pick your brain, see what's happening with you personally in SEO, where you've been, and what projects you're working on right now. So I have so many questions. Let's narrow it down and give yourself an introduction, as I usually do. Tell people who don't know you why they should trust you and what you're working on now.
Oof. Uh, I think it's hard to trust anybody in SEO these days. Um, Although fair, I think it's what's interesting now is it's not quite my like Jonathan Coleman. Some people listening to this, if they know who I am and who you are, because we're old at this point, especially in this industry, they probably know who Jonathan Coleman is. And when he had his like "I'm leaving SEO" moment, it feels kind of like that, but it's kind of been that way for a little while. I feel like I haven't been the person like in the weeds doing SEO in quite a while. I think probably not. Realistically, the last time I was like really like elbows deep in a campaign was probably like 2019 or 2020, right before I retired. And that glorious 3-year long retirement.
Short retirement, but came back into it. What brought you out of retirement? I know you were swinging golf clubs and climbing the Andes, I'm sure, but what drew you back?
Mainly divorce. No, there's a reason to go back to work when you lose a lot of what you built and then you just don't have it anymore.
Fair enough.
Reason people should trust me. God, that's a loaded question. I guess being old, there's some wisdom that comes with being around for a long time. I think, I got into the digital marketing game in 2007, and I've deleted production databases, and I've made all the major mistakes you can. Bought two agencies within a week of each other when I'd never bought another business before in my life. That was a big shit the bed moment. Yeah, just really, really made all the mistakes, really big, really expensive mistakes, and just try not to make them anymore.
I think that's the wisdom of the ages is like you are going to make mistakes. Just don't make them again.
Yeah.
If you can avoid doing it again, you're winning.
And pay and be willing to pay for time from people that have already made the really big and really expensive mistakes, because the fast forward button is very real. Like I'm so happy now to just pay for experience, things that I wish the younger version of my ego would have let me do, which is like, hey, you haven't done this before. Maybe we should go talk to somebody who charges for their time because it's very valuable, and make sure that the blind spots we think we are aware of are actually all of the blind spots, because they're probably not.
There's a reason why you hire that plumber who comes in and hits one pipe with one nail in that one spot and charges you $100. It's not, it's because he knows where to put it that
Yeah,
exact
it's
effort
exactly. It's
to
the
fix
itemized
that.
bill, right? It's the cost to hit the pipe, $5. Cost to know exactly where to hit the pipe at what pressure and what moment is $95. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
It's funny because I started in 2007 as well in on my SEO journey. I was a customer support representative for a website hosting company serving exclusively realtors. And the realtors kept calling in and they kept asking, how do I rank number one on Google? And so our policy was you have to stay on the line until they're satisfied. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess there's this Matt Cutts guy. Let's try what he says. Okay, there's this, you know, uh, you know, Matt Cohen, Bill Slawski, says SEO by the Sea. Let's see what he says. Paid for the SEO book by Aaron Wall.
Yeah, the
Read that.
original.
So I'm old dog in this too at this point, and it's interesting. I th what is it, about a 4 or 5-year cycle between when SEO dies and
Yeah,
when
four
the
four sounds about
shucksters
right.
roll out?
It dies every yeah, 'cause I think this is the 5th time it's died in my career, roughly. So, yeah, that seems about right. I do think that this is actually the nail in the coffin for what SEO was originally conceived as. I think we've come so far, in the evolution of what it actually means and what the skill set actually represents that it is weird to call it SEO anymore, even if in a lot of ways it's still the same thing.
It is. It's the more that it changes, the more that it stays the same, but the parts that have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Like, uh, on one hand, I can say, your website has 2 legs, content and authority, and if you're not using one of them, you're dragging the other behind, and it's keeping you, you know,
Yeah.
tied up. But there's so many moving pieces now. I was helping, just a small business that's a friend, and they're like, "Okay, what should I do for my small business? We're just about to launch a website." I'm like, "Okay, do you have 2 hours?" Like, let me, walk you through, all of the steps of all of the stuff. You gotta go register Google Places, you gotta register Google Webmaster Tools, you have to go and get directories, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to get links, you have to have solid authoritative content. You the list, in how it interacts and ties into social media presence. It's just so much, and then I'm like, and I know that you've already just signed up for a new business and you've already got cold emails and
100%.
spam. Like, the minute that I registered a new domain for them, I got, solicitations. They registered, submitted their Google My Business. They were getting 5 calls a day from these spammers saying, "Oh, you need to pay for your Google, visibility."
Yep.
I'm like, "Oh
To
my
pay
god,"
for your like, we'll set up your Google My Business profile for you, because you probably don't know how to do it, and so you have to pay us to do that for you.
Yeah, they were pretending to be Google, and kept calling even after they asked to be removed from the list. She's like, "I am contacting lawyers. What is your address?" And they finally panicked and hung up and stopped
Jeez.
calling.
Yeah. Yeah, man. The industry it's a legitimized a little bit over the past 10 years, but I mean it came from, the snake oil salesmen definitely have tainted the waters on what exactly it is that we do to a lot of folks. So
Yeah, it's always been a reputation management. It just seems now now the grift is, "Oh, SEO is dead, AEO, AIEEO."
yeah.
We'll They don't even have to prove anything, they can just suggest that, you probably maybe might be showing up in,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
AI. Um,
It
it's
just reminds me of
yeah.
one of the largest grifts that I ever heard of was one of the integration companies that they partnered with a lot of the major hosting providers, and it was a checkbox on your checkout when you're signing up for your hosting provider. For $5 a month, add SEO services. I don't think it actually
Yes.
did anything, but the company was doing like 50 million a year because the distribution network was just so big. And that's what a lot of, I think, small business owners like. They buy a website or they buy a domain. They'll do the instant website from GoDaddy Tonight or some other bullshit, and they'll just make sure their SEO is checked off. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
checked the box for SEO, I'm good.
yeah, it's taken care of now. No, free traffic for days from Google from now on.
I think I said this in a previous interview that I define 2010 to 2020 as a period of the golden age of SEO where all you needed to worry about was being a reverse engineer for Google's algorithm.
Yeah.
And even on that, there was so much fruit from the Google tree that you could really just focus in and be like, I just do technical SEO. I
Oh my God.
just write
I mean,
content, or I
that,
just
that was the decade. I mean, I built entire businesses off just like not just selling services, obviously, which I did as an agency, but the whole entire business is just built off the back of free, sustainable, organic traffic. I mean, those were the good days.
So Google's kind of uh, screwed things up in a number of unique ways and seems intent on redefining the internet of what's findable to what is profitable for them to advertise on. Would you
Yeah,
agree with that as a general
100%.
statement?
Yeah. There's not really much argument at this point. I mean, anybody who traffic top of funnel traffic can just look at their analytics over the past 18 months, and the questions from everybody that all of us got from stakeholders were all the same at the beginning, right? Which is what's happened. What happened to all of our rankings? Like, oh no, our rankings actually are fine. They're even up. The traffic's just all gone because the clicks aren't happening anymore. At least not the
Yeah.
way that we're used to them. So that was a weird conversation. Thank God some folks in our industry wrote about it. Like, traffic's down, but revenue's just fine, or like maybe even up. So I think that was a shitty conversation to have with ownership and stakeholders for a while, and I think a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of agencies got fired, not because they did anything wrong, but it was just a shitty period. I mean, I think from May till September last year, the average agency owner I talked to was down like 30 to 50% on revenue, just because crazy churn, and companies were, AI does all of our marketing now. So companies were firing entire marketing departments, and that probably didn't work out so well for them.
Yeah, I know. I know a pretty large job site that they were creating content with humans and had a rather large contract, and that got reduced, and then the Europe side got removed, and then just came down, and they replaced it with AI, but was just reading, looking at their stats that after 3 or 4 months of that, that that did bit them mightily.
Sounds all
Um,
too familiar.
it's interesting times again, um, but it is that challenge of, setting the right expectations in the conversation. I remember the first major pivot in SEO where we had to kind of rephrase, how we approach things around, the penguin age.
God,
But
yeah, there's the whole years of the zoo animals. I mean, that was its own sets of unique challenges there, because most of us had our own sites, and it was a mix of, having to explain to clients like, so here's what we know now. Well, especially the beginning, I was like, we don't know what happened. Here's the correlation. Here's what we think this might be. But a lot of us also, I think, just got sites torched. I mean, a lot of people in my circle had really nice businesses being propped up by Build My Rank. That all went away pretty quickly.
ended again with a helpful content update, which is a huge misnomer. It had nothing to do with how helpful your content was. What's your theory on exactly what changed? Because I talked to Darth Naw, Lyndon, NA. We have our theory of what changed, but I'm curious before I put mine out there.
I mean, Google's always had a pretty stark preference for brands, right? Entities that are large enough to be like in the entity graph, and for Google to see as brands, and in a lot of time, or in a lot of ways, brands can kind of do no wrong unless they get publicly called out, by somebody. Um, and it felt like that knob got turned up even more. And at the same time, I think a lot of the uh, what's the word for it? There's even a patent around it that Slosky had talked about. Like, there was a couple of updates where Google was really trying to make sure there wasn't a lot of duplicate domains showing up, right, in the same search results. And I think one thing I started to see in chunks of helpful content SERPs was that knob seemed to get turned down in some respects, and the sites that did get rewarded tended to take up get more pixel real estate overall than sites that did not. And I wonder if I can't help but wonder what the like. Is there a correlation between the rolling HCU and the rollout of AI overviews? And just very large changes that Google made to the UI and things that they had to do to make those possible.
I I think so. My theory, and this is what we came up, was that a large factor was actually distance to seed on the link side, and that it was another cut along with what Medic had done in
Oh, interesting.
2018, 2019. One of aside from addition of brand signals and clicks, and because if you look at who got hit first, it was like the programmatic sites,
Yeah,
the birthday date for celebrities, where they didn't have a business model aside from ranking for stuff. And, so if you had a legitimate business model, that meant that you had branded traffic and Search Console. So we think that was one set of signals entity, but also, distance to seed and authority being a factor. So it's almost, going back to some harder core link signals being
yeah,
integrated in HCU, because that makes more sense. If you see like how the huge swath, these sites that had huge swaths of content, just looking at it from the machine learning side doesn't make sense of who they chose to penalize. But if you look at, Google Search Console and link graph information at the same time, then it starts to paint a better portrait of, okay, this wasn't necessarily about, fighting AI content or, making sure that the content is helpful. It's just a readjustment of what they are willing to list in their results in terms of authority.
what's your favorite way to build to build a link graph these days? Are you still sort of old school, blending
Podcast.
outputs from a couple of the third party tools? Like, we my stack at the agency was always to blend SEMrush, Hrefs, and Majestic, but curious what your approach is these days.
Um, Honestly, it's kind of drawn back. Like I'll do a check of what are the the links that I can see are showing up between mostly Ahrefs is what I look to a lot these days, just because I don't need to do that deep of a cut. Um, because I prefer to get links, like do the fundamentals, make sure that we get branded anchor links to the about page, um, grab the necessary directories, and then try to get links, through articles, real newspaper articles. Podcasting for me is the panoply of link
Yeah,
building, because every conversation, like I've set up 3 or 4 podcasts for my clients, and, every conversation that the host has, we get a chance to drop mentions that have good anchor text links. So it just makes sense from a link building perspective that it should be coupled with, the most genuine source of subject matter expertise, which is the interview. So, mostly do some pre-work on Ahrefs and just kind of understand who the competitors are and how dirty their profile is, so that I can know how long it's going to take me to beat them out once I do the fundamentals.
that's a good answer.
So, coming back into the game after you retired for a little bit, what's the hat that you're wearing? And are you with a particular company or project? What's going on? What are you tackling right now?
Well, yeah, so I mean, I had come back, so like 23, I um, sold Traffic Think Tank to SEMrush, and then it was not part of the deal to go work there, but because of the deal, I got to meet the CMO, Andrew Warden, and he asked me after we spent a few days together. As part of the deal, like we met and spent time together to work out the deal we would eventually do. But because of the time we spent, he asked me to come build their own media department. So did that for 3 years. Had a really good time there actually. I was so convinced I was unemployable at that point, but was like, well, boy, we'll see how this goes. There's not a lot of risk. Worst case, I'll just leave. But ended up having a really great time there. Worked with some of the most incredible marketers I've ever met. Really built that program up to what it is today, which is like a big feather in my cap. Building an 8-figure a year program for a B2B SaaS company is pretty cool. And then just beginning of this year, felt like it was on to the next adventure. So I joined Digistore24 as their global CMO for the largest affiliate network. It's 950,000 vendors, 5 million users. Let's see what we can do with this one.
What's the digital marketing pool and I guess SEO side looking like for affiliate world?
I mean, the thing is, again, like sort of what you had mentioned in the beginning of the interview, like what's old is new again. Affiliates as a distribution strategy, affiliates. I was an affiliate for a while. Was a big affiliate for SEMrush in 2012. Organic search was certainly one of the tools in my toolbox for driving affiliate commissions, and that's gotten way harder. Like if you I've did some SERP comparisons, and one of the main things that was really fascinating to watch was as we built the own media program up in at SEMrush, was watching where all these individual like bottom of funnel keywords where there used to be 5 or 6 SEMrush affiliates, and now it's all SEMrush own media properties. Way better for SEMrush, but not great for affiliates, right?
Yeah.
However, like, in the age of AI where LLMs, value many times semantic relevancy and mentions and sentiment around mentions, almost in some instances more than links, it's a great time to have an affiliate program. Um, if you're able to get affiliates on board that are even reasonably decent at creating content, especially on like YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and these channels that now, all of a sudden after many years of not mattering at all to organic search, now matter, not just organic search, but also are very influential on the LLM side.
What's the social media slash influencer game looking like right now?
I mean, I think content rewards is a really cool idea. The content distribution strategy or network that WAP built into their platform. Um, that about it because they're a competitor of ours, and so it's I'm glad to hear that they had this brilliant idea. They executed really fast, but maybe they're not willing to do all the really deep hard work to execute well because managing fraud at an enterprise level, which is a huge part of just running any kind of marketplace, especially affiliate, is a really expensive part of doing it well. But it's what separates the men from the boys, I think.
So what does that look like as a CMO right now? You're looking at your stack. Is that a whole set of a team? Do you have somebody specializing in SEO, or do you have somebody wearing
Yeah, I've got pods
different
for. I
hats?
mean, we operate 2 pretty large teams, one here in the U.S. and one in the EU. We are originally a German-based company, but we've got resellers across multiple different countries because we are the seller of record. So if you're a vendor on our platform, when somebody buys something on the platform, technically we buy it and then we sell it to them, which is how we're able to automate all of the VAT reporting across all 38 EU countries. That's how we're able to automate all the tax charge you to set up Nexus and do all the reporting to the IRS and everything across the entire United States. So, let's say you create an ebook and you start selling it on your website and you're using influencers on Instagram and you're going to run it or something. And you cross the revenue nexus in Utah. So now you've got to go file paperwork in Utah and let them know how you're going to withhold because you've generated too much revenue. You generated over $2,000 in Utah, and then shit. Yeah, a community picks up your product in and blast it out to their Facebook community of 10,000 people, and suddenly you've crossed Nexus in Colorado and Montana and California, and now you got to deal with all that paperwork. We just do that all for you. Uh, the same within the EU. So let's say you want to go distribute into, France or Italy or the UK or Ireland. You just have to focus on selling.
Here is a soapbox for you to stand on, and I'd like your hot take of how you think that people should be leveraging AI and how they should not be leveraging AI.
So it's not contrarian in any world, but I have a very I what I've found is, so I still advise agencies. It's something I started doing after I started doing it before I retired. But then that's one of the things that I still did, a couple hours a week, after I hired a CEO and stepped off the org chart at the last agency because I just enjoyed it. And I still do it now. I'm an advisor to 6 agencies currently, and it's fun to uh, follow along in what's going on. And some agencies are really having a hard time right now, and some agencies are printing money, thanks to AI, or selling services around AI. And thing that I am always sort of fascinated to hear about is when I talk to agencies that I think you have to be building workflows around content production with AI. I don't think there's really an option anymore, in my opinion. But a lot of people, I thought a lot of agencies, I should say, I think, or maybe even in-house teams, I think are designing their processes the wrong way, where the steps they're choosing to use AI for, I don't think are the best ones. So like, for instance, like creating content briefs was always like a painful and reasonably expensive part of the process to really have a nice brief for a piece of content. And a lot of folks were like, oh shit, with AI, I can just automate the content brief. We're just, go answer these 5 questions in this form in ClickUp, and we'll automate the brief and we'll deliver that to clients, and we can still charge $150 for the brief. And now it takes us 5 minutes. And I think that's actually like, when you look at the human in the loop process, where you have them create the brief with AI, and a human writes the draft, and then an AI does the proofreading and editing, and then they publish it. I think it's completely backwards. Where I think things are better. Exactly. Like where the best results that I've seen from a content perspective is where it's humans actually doing the brief still, and then it's AI
Yeah.
writing the draft, and then it's humans doing the editing. And so it's like, where in the loop, does it actually make sense to use AI? I think is where my perspective is a little different. But I think you have to be using AI in your content production process, especially around like atomization. One thing that I've done is, I've got a really cool tool that I'm not going to share the name of, just because it's not well known yet, and I don't want it to get ruined. But it allows us to train a brand brain for our global entity. Here's our voice, here's our guidelines, here's our product mix, here's our competitors, here's all the sensors we want to keep this thing always on and always up to date. Here's how we want you to catch trends. Here's the topics that are relevant to us and the people that are relevant. And so here's this always on brand brain. And then in front of that, we can create regional requirements. So here is our compliance requirements for the US, for the UK, for the EU, for Germany, because they're crazy. Just like they're like the California of the EU. And then, when we sit, and then in front of the regional requirements, here is the channel. So here's how you're going to create this content with these regional requirements based on this brand brain for LinkedIn, for X, for blog posts, for Instagram, whatever it is, YouTube. And then in front of that channel is this persona. So we want you to create content on this brand brain with this region for LinkedIn, and we wanted to do it for our CEO and our CTO and our director of marketing and our head of affiliate and our head of sales. And then we're going to replicate that. And we've got different people over here in the Italian market. So here's how that's going to work for those personas. So being able to have that pipeline completely driven by AI, where it's finding the trends, it's finding the angle that's relevant based on all of those layers of requirements and just popping drafts into a content production pipeline for review by a human being, and ultimately for things to get scheduled to get published because the volume of content is not slowing down. And I think the opportunity to create a much higher volume of very relevant, non-shit, non-slop content, I think is actually like finally really doable.
Yeah, it's funny because when I think about going back to the 2007, 2010, know, I led a team of 10 SEOs, and we were just sending an email telling realtors like what they need to do, and realized, what, these realtors are never going to do it. So, what would it look like if we actually started implementing, link building, implementing building content for them? And the two things that what came to mind first from the team was content spinner,
Of
which
course.
was basically like you take a sentence and it'll swap out this sentence and it'll be different from your Yorba Linda page to your
The best
Corona
content
page.
spinner was an amazing strategy for a long time, and it worked until it didn't.
But then the other was, oh yeah, we can get that written in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
So like
Ex
the
broker, 3
pretense,
stars.
tax broker, 3-star, yes, the pretense that, oh, we were doing so much high quality content before AI came along. No, you weren't. You were trying to get it written as cheaply as possible and write it as poorly as possible. AI, quite frankly, is better than a lot of the writing that you did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you're right that there is a moment now where you can differentiate, but I think it's by actually delivering what Google said it wanted, which is expertise, authority, trust. And, it goes back to good old-fashioned journalism and genuine conversations, and because sitting someone down with SEMrush, as good as it is, Ahrefs, to do keyword research, you're never going to get the topical insight of 2 pros sitting down hashing it out.
Yeah, the expertise layers, it's I like to say in something I've been talking a lot about recently is, distribution is the only remaining moat when execution becomes infinite. But at the same time, I think, that's not entirely true because I think expertise does still allow for some layer of defensibility, at least for now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it maybe in the next, uh, I would say years, but the pace of development is kind of insane in the past 6 months. What's coming out of even Claude, Opus, the newest Opus and the newest Sonnet versus what came out a year ago. I just watched. Do you remember when they were making that joke about Will Smith eating spaghetti and
Yeah.
that video? Yeah, they did the first version is like all his face is
Oh,
all over
dude,
the place.
what one of my agencies is Gen AI video for ads, and like the one of our slides on like our new customer onboarding is like you have to understand the moment that we're at right now, and it's literally it's the litmus test for AI video quality is Will Smith eating spaghetti over the past 4 years. Because like you go from the first version where it looks like 8-bit like
Yeah.
Mario, to like the latest version where it's like him and his son eating spaghetti like on like a terrace in Manhattan, and like it's better than movie quality.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm excited and terrified in the digital marketing game because that level of firepower is definitely going to shoot some people's faces off. But at the same time, we can like you can imagine, you know, like like the something I can do now that I thought of in 2015 when I first came up with, SE Arcade as the brand for my digital marketing agency slash SaaS tool. Like I wanted a pixel fighter, and then I'd like turn, uh, you know, I spent like $500 hiring a guy to animate Rand Fishkin as like a floating, fighting wizard in pixel art form. to fight like a black hat guy, and there was like a clip like of a GIF, a set of GIFs, and it costs so much to get done. And somebody just pinged up on Twitter. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do this, and I made a fighting avatar for Paul Batterina. One of my last interviews, because he wanted to be like a necromancer. I'm like, okay, okay, here we go. So like that level of quick adaptation and creativity can then be matched, and you can get output really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, the time compression, between like, leveling up the quality of these releases is astounding to me. It's like, every week, like, just again, this video agency that I'm an advisor for, like, watching them where it's like, 1 week to the next, it's like, "Oh, we can't really do figures, so let's not do them. Oh, that's fixed this week. Well, lips aren't really great yet, so let's make sure we don't have any, close shots of, where they're talking. Up, that's fixed." Like, it can't really do, persistent light, in certain angles, camera angles as it's panning. So, we need to make sure we do jump cuts between these. Nope, that's fixed. Like, really, really crazy.
How does it kind of wrap up here? What are you hopeful for in digital marketing? What do you is the best outcome that you think could happen? Like if we're putting the glass isn't just half full, it's half full of something good.
Man, it's a it's a tough question. I don't know. I've never had as much fun as I am right now because like all the silly ideas that would be too time consuming or too risky to build, like I could just build in a couple hours now. And so there's like really no good reason to not be just building every day. So I think a lot of people before that maybe wouldn't have the courage to just build it, whatever it is. Uh, I think that's going to go away. I think we're going to see. I think there's going to be a whole new class of makers and creators, and it's not just people dancing on TikTok. Like I think we're going to actually see some cool technology, some cool apps, some cool websites like get made, because the bar is just so low.
I think I agree. I had the idea, like 4 years ago. I'm like, "I hate pushing the lawnmower. I wish I had a remote control lawnmower." I tried to, like, go through the steps, find a mechanical engineer, and, like, figure out how to produce it, and it turns out, late 2025, somebody released it, and they, like, won a design award, because it's, like, literally just a remote controlled lawnmower, and
Yeah,
I'm like, "Why did we have to jump to the Roomba guideless thing?" Like, we had had that great model in between, but he was able to bring it to production already really fast, like using AI assistive technology and 3D printing, and these new technologies are unlocking a lot of capabilities.
yeah. I think it's astounding.
Well, tell us as kind of wrap up, just remind us where you're at, if you're doing anything notable, if people want to connect with you, or you're doing any conferences, doing any speaking, or have any courses, things like that. If you want to get people connected
I
with
mean,
you, drop a
I'm
line.
still pretty vocal on Twitter. It's not generally helpful. It's more me. I think like it's like hot takes and me calling out things that I think are annoying, as I become an older and older curmudgeon. Um, but besides that, I did wrap up. I've been publishing like a lot of the premium content that I used to sell, through all sorts of different courses and communities and whatever is all. A lot of it's all just free now. I spun up recently just 'cause I did it like, 2 weeks ago. I think it took about 20 minutes, like, over coffee. I had the idea to create a new site to, like, put all my agency, like, training content, agency resources together, call it agencygrowthengine.org, and just code a site to curate all of it and make it all make sense. in like literally 20 minutes, start to finish. So it's just like cranking out sites. Like I redid ancillary over the weekend. Last weekend, I built a mobile app for GLP-1 muscle protection. I did it in 12 hours, like Sunday, like the whole app deployed to the app store. Like just it's crazy these days.
Well, I'm interested to see what, you create on a lazy afternoon coming up. So I'm still on Twitter, determinately, doggedly still there. Uh, so anybody else wants to tweet at us? Yes, it is Twitter, not X. It will always be
It'll
Twitter.
always be Twitter.
I appreciate the time and the interview. Thanks, Nick.
My pleasure, Jeremy.